I'm Malik, Gen Z's journalist.
And I'm Tarina, the co-founder and president of
the Greater Good Initiative.
And we're your hosts for tonight's Youth Action Hour event. Young people address the nation.
We're so excited for you to see the full event in just a few minutes, but first it's time to kick off the watch party. Alicia, take it away.
Thanks so much. Hi, everyone. My name is Alicia Novoa, and I'm Director of Engagement at Future Coalition. Happy Friday. Thank you so much for tuning in. In just a few minutes, we're going to watch the full Young People Address the Nation event at youthactionhour.org. And we're kicking off our watch party with two great case studies of how young people are seeding change in their local communities. In the Iowa group, we have Lyric and Andy's topic in Disrupting Racism in Schools, how a group of students organized and advocated to remove school resource officers from Des Moines Public Schools. Now, I know we needed that when I was in high school. They have recently led a school walkout on April 21st to protest education bills that would ban state and local governments and public schools and colleges from teaching certain divisive concepts as a part of their diversity and sensitivity training. That Lyric Sellers, a part of the Iowa Department of Human Rights, and Andy Montalvo Martinez, the co-founder of the Des Moines Public Schools Racial Justice and Equity Group, will be joining us to speak about that topic. And for the San Francisco group, Amiados will be joined by his adult colleague to share more about their organization, MyPath, and their innovative Youth Economic Bill of Rights as a solution to youth economic opportunity. Now, Biden's first round of the stimulus check left out young adults, so it's so important for young people to advocate for their economic justice. Ameros Oyagara, a policy associate with MyPath, and Shirley Yee, an economic justice director with MyPath, will be leading that session. Now we get to welcome Lyric Sellers, Andy Montalvo Martinez, Ameros Oyagara, Shirley Yee, and Sixto Cancel, founder and executive director of Think of Us, for this panel. Hello to all of the panelists. How are you all doing?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Super excited to be here. Thank you so much.
Awesome. So I think we're all dying to know, how were you successful in seeding change in your local communities? Walk us through it.
I can start. So I know with us, we started with like a racial equity proposal that we presented to our superintendent. And it was just about becoming an anti-racist district and doing the work to commit to that. So one of the things that were on there was the removal of SROs, which we knew was essential in regard to, getting rid of that school to prison pipeline that existed in our school system, and working toward restorative justice practices and hiring those restorative justice facilitators, so that we're actually working to solve problems rather than criminalizing students for being students. So that's pretty much like, the core of our work is that student liberation and making sure that our student voice is amplified and being included in the decisions that our district makes.
Wonderful, Lyric. I think there's so much similarity around some of our work. So we do a lot of work in foster care. We are looking to make the foster care system better, specifically for young people who don't get adopted, are not able to go back home, and they turn 18 or 21 and have to actually figure out life on their own. And so for us, throughout the pandemic, this group of people have been left out and forgotten. And so change for us really started with a bold idea of how is it that young people could actually organize and say, I need to know, what should we be doing, right? What are the problems? And I think the first step that I would tell anyone who's looking to be a change maker is to try to understand the problem differently. So many times we know in our gut something's off, something's wrong. We're experiencing the end outcome. And for us, that looks like young people being homeless on their 18th birthday, right? For us, that looks like young people not being able to enroll in the college that they work so hard to get into, but because they don't have the paperwork from their government system, from their social worker, or because they missed the mark maybe on a deadline because they had to coordinate with a bunch of paid professionals to make something happen. You name it. We know when something doesn't feel right. However, one of the things that I think has been very useful for us in our work is doubling down on how to make sure that we're understanding the problem from those who are closest to the problem. young people who are experiencing those experiences, the frontline staff, right, the administrators. And when we talk to everyone, we kind of start to understand the problem in a very different perspective, which then enables us to actually take action. And I think the more that we have our young people today understanding problems that we're experiencing and being able to understand those problems differently, the more that we can activate people to do something about it.
Absolutely. And you're so right. It's all about shifting perspective. And you, Andy?
To add on to what Lyric said, she hit it right on the dot. I just want to add that at the very beginning, we knew that we had to do research. We couldn't just speak from experience, even though we knew that student experience was really important. So we went ahead and talked to district leaders and asked for the data on SRO arrest and to see if there's any disproportionality within that. At the very beginning, we know that it was obvious that there was no public record as to how many arrests were being made and the demographics of the students that were being criminalized. So we had to go through the Department of Human Rights. And through work with them, there was a finalized report for Des Moines Public Schools. And in that report, it details that there was a 200% increase in charges originating from a GMPS location from 2015 to 2019. And it was also really obvious that Black youth were disproportionately being criminalized compared to white youth in Des Moines Public Schools. And another really interesting point was that almost 2/3 of charges were simple misdemeanors, meaning they were actually concerns of public safety. There were things that could be resolved by other district or other building staff like the admin or the teachers. And so going back to what Lyric said about the restorative justice facilitators, we basically shifted the funds that were being put to the school resource officers and invested it into mental health services and the restorative justice facilitators who could come in and kind of resolve the issue that the student was experiencing to prevent them being criminalized later that day that they had that issue.
Absolutely. And that's so important. I'd love to know, and I think the audience would love to know, if you could ask President Biden for one thing, what would it be?
For me, when I think about this question, to me, I immediately think that I believe what we need is a new older youth system, an agency that is completely dedicated to thinking about how our young people in this country who are teenagers and young adults are ensuring that there's an agenda around how are you healing from the trauma that you're experiencing, right? How is it that we're developing certain abilities? How is it that those things are funded by and those funds are funneled to the community for the community to determine how is it that they can create those interventions themselves? I think it's so critical that we start doubling down investments and opportunities in our young people today, and specifically leveraging the new neuroscience that now what we know about older teenagers and young adults, right? That we have the opportunity to rewire so much of our brains despite trauma, despite the lack of opportunities we may have had to develop certain skill sets. I think that is the most critical thing, not just for young people, but for the security of our country moving forward.
Lyric and Andy, anything you want to add?
Yeah, I definitely agree and second that. And I see it even on levels higher than national, but just how we have a lack of that voice and that representation and voice. And that's part of the work that we've done is to build systems that work to constantly revolve around student voice, especially in education, because we're there for the students. But to see that more in administration, and like you mentioned, having those different agendas, I think that's part of being equitable is not really throwing it into a diverse agenda or an inclusive agenda, but how are we catering to each community and how are we hearing from them rather than making decisions for them, and just amplifying those voices and hearing directly from those people and making sure that we're not really categorizing it in a way that we're doing the same thing for everyone, because not everyone needs the same thing. So I would definitely say having that voice and identifying and acknowledging those intersectionalities as well.
I would just add also being really aware of how we're investing locally. I think it's really important to recognize that our schools are a reflection of our community. So not only investing in our education and our youth, but investing in our community. And going back to that trauma that a lot of our communities are coming with. A lot of the times that students are bringing those traumas in school, and then they would be criminalized for it, and that's why we push for the removal of school resource officers. So understanding the trauma that a lot of our communities are coming in with, and how we can address them and get to the root causes of it, and addressing that underlying issue.
Absolutely. And what you said is so true. You know, local action everywhere turns into national change. And that's why it's so important, you know, to have the projects that you all have picked up in your local communities, and also the aspirations that you all have shared nationally. So thank you so much. Before you all go, would love to ask, how can people watching get involved with your work and help out?
Well, I know that we have a social media. We have an Instagram, DMPS Racial Equity. And that's kind of where we just put everything that we're doing, walkouts that we plan, different events, or what we're working on currently. And I know that as far as our district goes, we're pretty open to anyone who wants to be a part of it, especially, you know, that student voice again. But just any way that you would like to help, I think we're open to it all the time. Just reach out. But we're constantly finding more ways to get more invested in the community, and finding more ways to really like put what we do out there, because it started out really small, but it's really starting to pick up.
I think for us, we're about to launch, get on a major campaign. Congress realized that young people who age out of foster care didn't really qualify for a lot of the stimulus checks and a lot of the benefits that have been pushed out. So they passed some current special pandemic relief for current and former foster youth. The problem is that foster youth former foster youth who are 26, 25, 24, it's been years since they've been connected to the child welfare system. No one has their contact information to let them know. So we're going to be running a large campaign, a national campaign, to inform young people across the country who may qualify for that. It's going to take a lot of us just retweeting, sharing that information. And so if anyone would love just to be like sharing information, sharing it on their page, just in case that one of your friends that you may or may not know, had foster care experience, might qualify for that specific type of pandemic relief. We know it's critical for our young parents who were in foster care, who have children. It can make all the difference. So please follow us on social media, and we're going to be asking folks to get involved.
And really quick, just to add on to what Lyric said, we are also organizing a summer retreat this summer for students in DMPS. We want to make sure that this student organizing and this initiative in DMPS to become anti-racist is sustained. And so we want to make sure that, we're passing on the baton, like the work that we're doing doesn't just live with Lyric and I, like other students should have that support and the resources to, take in those leadership positions and take on those projects themselves. So if you guys want to, follow us, like Lyric said, on social media, and donate money or anything, it could be made to DMPS, and yeah.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Lyric, Sixto, Andy, for joining me today. And, for everyone watching, if you're not watching on youthactionhour.org, you'll have to go there to watch the full event and engage with us on chat. And for those watching at youthactionhour.org already, here is the Youth Address the Nation. Good night, and thank you.
Thank you.